So I'm going to do a little Beetle video. We'll start with the little Dozer here. And these were built for the U.S. Forest Service, I believe after World War II. This is an after-war model. The Trail Dozer you might have seen in my earlier video is the pre-war model. And these were made for building trails in the forest and cutting fire breaks and maintenance and things like that. So this is, I think this is number 141, but there was only, I believe, 25 of these things built. And the grader over here, this is the only one that was ever built. It's also built by the U.S. Forest Service. It was based upon the same design as the Beetle over there, with the motor turned around backwards, and then instead of tracks, it's got the wheels on it. Transmission, it's 4-speed transmission, 3 forward, 1 reverse. It's a completely functioning road grader, and it's the only one built. This Cody horse, he's the only one built also, and he's the most reliable of anything I own, vehicle wise. It's a sweet boy. Here you go, bud, have another. At any rate, we're going to continue with this. The blade goes up and down, sideways, tilts. We're going to start it up in a second. I just rebuilt the starter on it, my brother did, and there's a few people I want to thank for this whole thing coming together. First one, of course, Ted Flynn. He's the one who actually invented the bulldozer. Before that, most tractors pulled a blade, a grader behind the tractor, and they had problems on logging roads that keep tipping over, so the loggers came up with an idea to put the blade ahead of the tractor, and none of the main tractor manufacturers liked that idea because it meant they had to redo the frames on the tractor. They were made for pulling and not for pushing, made for pulling through the drawbar back here and not for pushing a blade forward off the frame. So they had to redesign an entire tractor. None of them wanted to do it, so the Forest Service did it and actually invented the first bulldozers, which were the trail tractor that you saw in my other video that I own. And then later on, these things came out, like I said, after the war, during the war, I'm not really sure. And then the grader came out in 1954. But by that point, the Forest Service was no longer maintaining trails for horses, which is why I got my coat over here, Cody. All they had to do before was build a trail that was about 4 feet wide, which is what these blades are, and that was enough for a horse and a man to get anywhere in the forest. So anyways, after the war, people weren't riding horses as much, so they decided they were going to get full-size dozers and build just a limited amount of roads instead of using these for fire breaks and trail maintenance. So this dozer was built, and then it was never put into production. So it's a prototype, and it's got a lot of little quirks to it. And at any rate, Ted Flynn built this, and he built the bulldozer. And then what is it on here? Pacific Western Gear Products actually put these things together. So at any rate, the other people that I want to thank for this was Steve Hansen, was the guy who actually came up with this tractor and found it and rebuilt it the first time, got it going, and then he did a lot of research and he located this grader, which was at I believe a college somewhere in Oregon, and it was pretty derelict by that time, and he resurrected it, got it running, and took good care of it. And then he sold them to Marv Hedberg in Minnesota. Steve was up in Oregon. He sold them Marv Hedberg in Minnesota, and then Marv took him a few steps past that and did a lot of work on them, and kept them going, kept them protected for a long time, along with that trail tractor that you saw. And then as time goes on, you know, we get rid of things. So Marv decided that he was going to downsize and get rid of some things, so we started talking for a while, and turned out we had mutual friends and everything, and we became friends pretty quickly. And he agreed to sell me the grader, the Beetle here, and that trail tractor in the other video, and I had them all hauled out here. So we got Ted Flynn involved, we got Steve Hansen involved, and then Marv Hedberg involved with it to keep the legacy and the story going with them. And then I went to buy them, and the weather prevented me from going back, and then other things cropped up too, and at any rate, it didn't look like it was going to happen. And then Gary Straight's a friend of mine with antique trucks, and I happened to, just by luck, have contact with him one day, and we talked about it. It turned out he was coming out here to an antique truck show in Reno, so he picked up the 3 tractors for me. He hauled them out, and that got him involved in it, so he made a great contribution to him, because none of this would have happened without everybody's help up to this point. Then I got him. The trail tractor was stuck, so luckily I've got a couple of really good friends, Pete Bloom and Darren Dustin, and they came out and they helped me and figured out how to get the engine unstuck and run it again and everything, along with my brother Doug. And Doug was a gigantic help, because I can do a lot of things cosmetically, painting and turning bolts and things, as long as someone's teaching me and showing me what to do. But Doug really knew how to fix things, so Doug rebuilt the starter on this one, the carburetor on 2 of them, and then while he was doing that, I went through the electrical and redid the electrical systems on all of these things, and put gauges on them and cleaned them up, replaced hydraulic hoses, replaced all the electrical on them, got generators working on them, and anyways, put the starter on it today, and now both of these things will actually run and start on 6 volts, which I'm really impressed with, because before that we were having to jump them off a 12-volt battery, which I didn't want to keep doing. So anyways, we're up to these great amount of people and friends I'm very fortunate in my life to have, along with my wife, who puts up with all of this garbage, and also she's the chief financial officer, and she okays everything. Any dumb idea I've got of something, she goes along with it. So anyway, let's start these things up now. Hopefully, I should say hopefully, they can get a little cantankerous, but warm up. And I don't want to spook Cody. I don't know how he's going to react to these things. He's the world's greatest horse. So this one too. Turn the key on. Hit the starter and hopefully it'll fire too. The way you teach your horse, I don't want him to be afraid around these things in case I have him in the backyard where his house is, along with Frosty, so I want him to get used to these motors and these machines. So this is kind of a desensitizing lesson for him too. Get up the RPMs a little bit. You see the blade goes up. It also goes side to side. Hydraulics need a little work on them. A little difficult to do when you're by yourself. Okay, Okay, bud? Whoop. And it would help if I were to take it out of gear. There's my mistake. You okay, bud? I'm gonna come by you here. Okay, bud? He says he wants a cookie. So it's a little difficult to film and run them at the same time, but this was a great exercise for Cody here because he's not afraid of these machines. That's the first time he's ever seen them. And I don't have a workshop. All I have is a garage to work on these things, so this is my spot to work on them with just my hand tools. And I said I couldn't have done it without the help of all those nice people. Ted Flynn for building them. He's passed away quite some time ago. Steve Hansen for saving them in the first place and getting them going. Marv Hedberg for rescuing them also and keeping them going from Steve and maintaining them in the great condition that he did. Gary Strait for bringing them out here to me. And I'm sure I'm forgetting other people too. Pete Bloom and Darren Dustin for all their mechanical help and helping advising me of what to do along the way. And then my brother Doug for all of his help and his expertise in fuel systems and mechanics. And of course my wife for the first place basically letting me buy them. So at any rate, that's it. And I'm going to take Cody for a ride now. It's time to saddle him up and go for a ride. It's the first time that I've actually been able to take him out in a couple of weeks because I've been so busy working on these. And next step is going to be to clean up the big guy over here. I haven't driven it in over a month now. Actually, since Gary Strait parked it here a month ago. When he was out, he spent the night. We had a great visit, laughed the whole time. And then he drove it, and this is where we parked it and haven't started it since because I've been working on the tractors.